Yeah, because I think that's a regular thing that I say.
I
I'll
tell
tell you
you what.
what.
Yeah. My regular
I'll
thing I
tell
say
you.
is capitulate. I say that all the time. And I think I
Yeah,
learned it from Marilyn
capitulate.
Manson.
Capitalism.
If anyone wants to know where my vocabulary came from, it's heavy metal. Anthrax taught me so many words. I mean, just yeah, heavy metal, great
Did
resource
they
for
teach you?
learning
Did they
vocabulary.
did they teach you to say I'm the man?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I say a lot of?
What?
I say greetings, citizens of Earth. Welcome to Accelerativ Thrust. My name is Dan.
And I'm Erik.
Neither one of us are Prince, though.
Prince?
Yeah, my name is Prince.
Oh.
And I am funky.
And I am funky. Oh, yeah, we've talked about that. I couldn't believe those were the lyrics, and they were. Speaking of Prince, he has very little, as far as I can tell, to do with our guest today, who's Luke Bascom. So Luke Bascom and the End Times had an EP come out recently, and we reviewed it, and we loved it, and so we asked Luke to be on, and we're going to bring him in right now. Here he comes.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Glad you're here. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all asking me to come on.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So I guess my first question is, who are you, Luke Bascom? You know, where are you from? What's your history with music? And what led you to Luke Bascom in the End Times Planet Alexander?
Yeah. So I am from Iowa. I grew up playing music here in Des Moines, mainly a drummer from my earliest beginnings. I started drumming with my brother when I was like 7 years old and went on to play in quite a few bands locally, and have always, looked for creative outlets through music and started writing my own stuff, mainly when I was in college. So it's been like probably 8 years now or something like that. And really during the pandemic is when I kind of returned to songwriting, and began to, I guess, really enjoy the craft side of it and start to feel like I could express myself and the ideas I was having and work through, kind of that chaos that we were living in through music. So, we've been performing. Luke Bascom in the End Times has been performing for like the last 2 years, and just finally released our first EP in June. So those are kind of my humble beginnings.
So the other people in the band, are they also kind of like Des Moines music people that have been in other bands?
Yeah, they are. Stone Mills, who plays bass, he and I have been making music together since we were in high school. He also is a great songwriter. He wrote songs in a couple groups that I played drums in, The Seed of Something and Quick Piss. He took on the bass. He hadn't really played bass a whole lot outside of playing in The Seed of Something back in high school. So was really thrilled to have him join the outfit. And then Chris, who plays fiddle, I had done some stuff with in the past. My brother is also a songwriter and had drummed with his group. And so Chris, he, was doing fiddle work with my brother's stuff and just happened to work out that he was able to join the group. And then Will Tarbox has been drumming with all sorts of different bands throughout Des Moines for probably 25 years. So he's definitely a fixture in the area.
Yeah, it's a great band. I mean, the sound of it is really cool and actually like really different. And I think some of the things that set that off are like the keys and the fiddle. I think it adds a whole nother element to it that is sort of indefinable, makes it sort of indefinable. And I think that's amazing. But really, great band you put together. Nice job.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you were mentioning like keys and fiddle in some of these earlier bands. So were any of the bands like different, I guess, in like style and then it kind of, or like genre, and then kind of led you to where you are now? Or has it always been kind of like a similar sort of sound that you were going for since you were like 13 or, like a teenager? Or
Yeah, no, I think it would be, I definitely didn't have the emotional maturity or like enough understanding to take on some of the subject matter that I sing about in my songs when I was 13. So, no, I've been kind of on a journey, I guess, musically. Played in more like garage rock and punk bands. Did play in some like more alt country style, which I would kind of say is one genre that we fit into. So I've been on kind of a journey, but yeah, it's also just been since I've started writing songs, I'm still, allowing myself the freedom to sound however I'm hearing in my head, and to kind of arrange things however I want to. And am still kind of figuring out, I guess, if we fit into any of those boxes, or, what direction we want to go next. And yeah, so.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things, actually, Erik. You touched on this during the review that it sort of reminded us of like alt country a little bit, but there were so many other elements to it that it couldn't be boxed into just that. And I think partly the reason why it sounds like that to me is because of your voice, because your voice really is a unique sound. Like, at least when applied to like this kind of instrumentation, honestly blew me away from the first note. And then also on top of that, I really like sort of the subject matter that you're kind of playing around with. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there does seem to be like sort of an apocalyptic sort of theme going around, at least with the song titles. I was curious, where does the name Planet Alexander originate from?
So the name of our EP, Planet Alexander, it's a reference to my cousin, actually. So went through some tragedy when I was at the end of high school, lost my cousin. He took his own life. And the name kind of occurred to me after we had finished recording everything, kind of searching for a name for the EP. And what I liked about it is that my cousin was this really brilliant, like joyful person, who brought a lot of light to our whole family, people who knew him. And then equally, at the same time, he left us in like kind of the most tragic way. And sometimes living in the US and in this time in history, it feels a little bit like the convergence of like just really beautiful things and really terrible things. And so, yeah, I liked the kind of dichotomy, I guess, of those two feelings that I have, yeah, that was the origin. Wanted to tribute one of the songs on the EP especially is actually written, Graveyard Shift is written more from my point of view. I write a lot of stuff through characters, but that song is more of directly from my first person lived experiences and kind of the grief process around that event. So yeah, I wanted to have a chance to tribute the music to him, and share his life a little bit with other people too.
Yeah, I noticed when I was looking through like your Instagram and stuff, there was a live shot where there was a tribute displayed behind you as you played, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it was a beautiful thing to have a chance to do that. It's been almost 10 years since we lost him, so didn't actually plan on having that image on the screen behind us, but XBK, where we did our EP release, asking if we wanted anything, for graphic while we were performing.
So have you guys played, that was the EP release show, right? Have you guys performed these songs or as a band a lot of times before the EP came out as well? Or you've been playing live for a while?
Yeah, we've been playing around Des Moines for the last couple of years. And all 4 of the songs on the EP have pretty much been in our regular kind of set rotation. I'm trying to think. I guess Algorithm and Blues is probably the most recently written of the 4. Graveyard Shift was probably the earliest. Wrote that one back in 2020. So yeah, some of them have been a long time coming, getting them recorded, and others are a little bit more recent. But we're hoping to do a full length here in the coming year. So have quite a bit built up that we need to record at some point.
I actually had another question that's curiosity related to your singing voice. Have you always been a vocalist in all of your bands before, or is this the first time that you've approached doing vocals?
Oh yeah, it's pretty much the first time I've been at least the lead vocalist. I've done some like backup work on different recordings and occasionally would do like, group vocals on a song with like my punk band. But that's pretty different than the style that I approach my own songs with and the way that I sing. So yeah, it's been definitely performing live and singing live has been one of the, I guess, most challenging things to get used to. But I'm coming to really enjoy, finding my own voice and practicing vocals. It's never something I've trained much in. Yeah.
And I think that's what gives it character, and that's what gives it its uniqueness.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely a quality I like in other musicians is just feeling like they're sharing a part of themselves, and also that they're not afraid to, I guess, get extra vulnerable with the way that they deliver their music. And I think for me, probably some of what you're hearing is that I have ideas that come to me and that I want to explore, and my vocal training and or just experience in singing kind of just put me at step 1 when I go about exploring them, because I haven't sang in many groups in the past. So it might end up sounding a little bit unconventional, or I don't know. I guess I will just take it as a compliment.
Well, I just think your voice has a lot of personality, and it comes through. I was wondering about being a drummer initially, and you said you started when you were like 7. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, that rhythmic element has to be pretty ingrained as far as how you hear and think about and create music, probably. Do you think being a drummer has changed how you write songs? Like, do you think that plays a big part in how the songs move and what they sound like?
I do. I think rhythm plays a really huge part in what I find interesting as I begin writing songs, and whether it's like syncopation or just looking for guitar patterns that I feel like people can move to in different ways, and that move me, I guess, in different ways, and that I find interesting rhythmically. That definitely plays a huge role. And then, in the arrangement for like the rest of the band's different parts, drumming is definitely the drum parts are something that at times I'll have very specific ideas on what I'm hearing, occasionally to Will's chagrin, probably. But no, it's played a huge role in who I am as a musician. It's kind of like the most essential part of how I got into my love for music and songwriting. And it's been fun to kind of move over those skills and that like background to a different instrument as well, and playing guitar.
Yeah. I think that's one of the first things I noticed too when we started listening to the EP. I'm really bad at knowing the names of parts of songs or figuring that out or whatever. But in Guardian Angel, you sort of have the first part, what I would consider the verse. And then we get into the chorus or pre-chorus, and that's kind of syncopated, the that part. But then it drops down into this sort of like a Bo Diddley tom part, like that. The second I heard that change, I was like, oh, this is really cool and interesting. And it was the rhythmic element of it. And so finding out that you've been a drummer a lot of the time, it makes it make perfect sense. But that really is one of the things that hooked me real quick, as I was like, oh, there's a real attention to how this moves and like the rhythm of the whole thing. So I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, that song was, I think I heard it as like, you know, kind of a 70s R&B. That part of the song, the chorus, felt very like it could have a, you know, a chorus, actual choral, like group of folks singing along in the background with like the dropout of the instruments, just with like the bass holding it down.
Yeah.
So I definitely drew inspiration from kind of that era and that style.
I also see in your list of influences that you're influenced by a lot of like modern hip hop. It seems like Tierra Whack, Rico Nasty, and Vince Staples. And then also I see like Outkast on there and stuff like that. To which degree, just out of curiosity, do you think do hip hop beats influence your drumming patterns at all, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. They definitely influence. I don't know. I can't speak for Will's parts that he ends up writing for my stuff, but they have influenced my own parts I wrote in past groups. And I think, you know, with like Tierra Whack, Rico Nasty, Vince Staples, Outkast, all of them do very like creative, innovative, playful things, both vocally and lyrically, with their beats. And I think they all kind of create, you know, very recognizable like worlds for people to live in through their music. So that's like what appeals to me the most about them. But I also just love to like dance and have a great time. And so what is there not to like about Outkast, you know?
Yeah. So another thing that I really like is the song titles. I mean, Guardian Angel, Algorithm and Blues. I really love that title. And Sell Your Soul Superstore. What was your thought process as far as like song titles go? How does it relate to like the lyrical content?
Well, I would say that I kind of, you know, as we were deciding what we wanted to record, it was becoming apparent that we probably were going to do like an EP. And I was looking through the different tracks and just noticing kind of a through line between some of the thematic things happening in the titles. I wouldn't say I went about it with any intention in the way I was titling all of them. I just was giving them titles that felt true to kind of the main message in the different songs. But yeah, I was noticing that there was kind of, I guess you could say like a spiritual or like catastrophic, just these different through lines that were going from one song to the next, both their titles and like some of the themes that I was touching on. So Algorithm and Blues, Guardian Angel, Sell Your Soul Superstore, Graveyard Shift, they're all dealing a little bit with, I guess, the idea of like death and life. And I think this was an EP that was my way of working through my own like grief around losing someone really close to me, but also watching like parts of our world go to shit and feeling like I was losing that as well, and being moved to try to do something about that. And making music is one of the ways that I try to conjure up something from those like really intense emotions that I'm feeling. So yeah, it was kind of a happy accident, I guess, that they all had these related titles, but also I just feel like music and creativity kind of is a very unexplainable magic where things just, end up making sense to you after you've created them. So
yeah, you mentioned that you sometimes write from a character point of view and sometimes as yourself. Is that ever difficult to keep that separated? Like I'll oftentimes start writing a song as a character and then realize, oh, I'm just writing this as myself. Like, do you think there is sort of like it's all gray area, or do you try to stay kind of rigid? Like, I guess what I mean, like story songs, like maybe like Penny Lane or something, like where this is obviously a construction. This isn't a real story. Like, do you try to stick to it being rigid, or do you just let it happen the way it happens?
no, I would say I let it happen the way it happens. I rarely go into it looking to like accomplish something. Usually the part that I love about songwriting is the kind of mysterious, flowing through me kind of experience that I have. And there's definitely some gray area. I mean, all of the songs on the EP were a part of me and definitely were expressing things that I personally feel, whether they were doing it in kind of a roundabout way or by like flipping the script a little bit on experiences I've had. I think I write through characters mainly, as a way to give myself some separation from the subject matter so that I can maybe do a better job of understanding it for me, but also creating something that is fresh and new and maybe excites me and hopefully the audience as well.
I think it's difficult, especially when you're using your own name, which I only started doing a few years ago. But it's like if you're writing as a character, yet you're putting out music under your own name, like people pretty much assume that it's autobiographical, and like I'll present songs or record songs, and sometimes my wife is like, man, people are gonna think I'm an awful person, because it might be about some made up character or whatever. And I just think that's an interesting line to sort of ride because you are putting it out as you, and so people assume that it's about you, and so that's a tough thing. But yeah, it sounds like you have a good approach, so that's awesome.
I guess I've had those feelings before of just like, man, this whatever I'm singing about is like super sensitive, or I like to have like some level of humor sometimes. Like Algorithm and Blues is very much not told from my perspective. It's meant to be like shining a light on some of the like more, I guess, toxic ways that people get sucked into like social media and things that I felt myself, just like my time slipping away because of the obsession of it all. And so it can be, a little bit of a tightrope walk, but I also, so many of my favorite artists and songwriters, write story songs and have taken on like challenging material. And so that helps me remain confident and not get too freaked out about whatever's coming out.
Right.
Yeah. So being from Des Moines, there's a lot of artists from Des Moines lately that have been putting out music, and I know we had Haploid on not that long ago. You mentioned them. So when you first started like performing as Luke Bascom in the End Times, were you pretty much just performing in Des Moines? Have you played other places outside of Iowa, or how's that been? How's the reception been like towards the scene and everything?
Yeah, I mean, really positive. it helps to have, I'm having been in Des Moines and gotten to know the music scene, and also just built a really great community of friends and folks here in the area. We've definitely been lucky to have support from people here in the hometown. I've had a chance to perform outside of Des Moines a handful of times. We did a kind of a benefit show for folks in Gaza and Grinnell that was organized by Erik Jarvis. If you're familiar with him, he's done a lot of, well, he has his own kind of studio that he's starting up, and he also plays keys in a number of different groups in Des Moines. So we had a chance to play that. I also played a book festival in Kansas, which was mainly organized through my dad, who runs the festival. So that was a cool opportunity to do something outside of the state. But yeah, we're actually going up to St. Paul next weekend to play a show that we're really excited about, trying to make time to travel and perform elsewhere as much as we can, just to share the music outside of the state if we have the opportunity to. So yeah.
Is that on the 17th? Is that right?
It is, yeah, the 17th at the White Squirrel Bar in St. Paul. We're going to be playing with Squinny, Visa Card, and Frank and Janaea, I think is the name of the other act.
The name of the book festival. I mean, some of our listeners might be interested.
Yeah. It's called the Kansas Book Festival.
Okay.
My dad will be psyched to have a little extra PR for it. I think it should be coming up in September. So
okay, cool.
So is your dad involved in like the music scene as well, or just like in that, just like that festival sort of thing? Or
yeah, both of my parents are have written books, and they're both writers. My dad is for a long time he was an English professor. So we grew up, with plenty of models to look towards creatively. Neither of them are super musical, so I'm not sure completely how my brother and I got the bug, but my grandpa was very musical. He would play organ when we were younger, and would like go out early mornings and play baritone. He was kind of a wacky character. But yeah, I don't know how we kind of ended up with the love for music that we have, but definitely writing, songwriting, and just in general, that was something that we inherited through our folks, my brother and I.
That's cool. Yeah. Your grandpa playing organ. I grew up with my grandpa playing organ too. And do you mean like a home organ, like a Wurlitz or a Lowry or whatever?
It's like, I don't know exactly what kind of model it was, and I'm honestly trying to remember whether he ever owned one. I think he did, but it was more like a very small kind of like church organ vibe.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was deaf almost completely and blind in one eye, so it made for a pretty interesting experience as an audience member.
Wow.
But he obviously loved music, and it was another way for him to kind of express himself. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I could definitely hear like that. Kind of makes sense when you were talking about how you had a father who was a English professor, and then it sounds like you probably grew up around a lot of literature. I can definitely see how that could be an influence on your writing, at least from my perspective. Would you say that influenced your songwriting?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that probably I was gifted from watching my folks work on their creative projects over the years was just having the like persistence to return to. I saw kind of the whole range of, writer's block or, being really satisfied and managing to finish something that you were working on. So I inherited that for sure. As far as kind of stylistically, I don't know, it'd be interesting to look at, the things that I sing and write about are probably pretty different than a lot of the stuff that my dad writes about. He does mostly nonfiction, like creative memoir. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely been an inspiration to have parents who pursued writing in a real way. And you'd have to check it out and tell me what you think if I'm pulling any themes that he's also hitting on.
So what are some of your musical influences, just like growing up, like and I guess like what age would you say that you became like really fond of music? Was it a really young age? Or I remember my first musical memory was like 5 or 6, and I was obsessed with like Huey Lewis and the News, like just out of curiosity, like, did you have like a moment like that where you're like, okay, I really, really love music?
I can't think of like a light bulb moment necessarily, but I do know, yeah, I mean, so I took drum lessons when I was like 7 years old. My parents got me one of those, little children drum sets. And my brother and I used to go out in the garage and probably make just the most disturbing of sounds with what we were able to do on our respective instruments. But yeah, I think I realized that music was like making me feel something special as early as 7 or 8. I remember like I would always, anytime I had to help out washing the dishes, we'd listen to music, and I would end up finding myself like not doing a lot of washing, but doing a lot of banging on pots and pans and tapping along to things. And yeah, so it was pretty apparent from a young age that music was going to be something that I was drawn to. And that just kind of expanded as I got older and had opportunities to perform and to learn about like writing my own stuff. So yeah, it's always been with me.
Cool. Is there any one record or artist that you can point to say like this, is like maybe the biggest influence of my, or, a transitional record or artist that you can think of where you were just like, I'm obsessed with this artist or this record?
I mean, there are so many, but I think in my own songwriting journey, when I was like a senior in high school, my brother introduced me to Jason Isbell and Drive-By Truckers. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think that opened my eyes to like country music in general, which was something I'd always been like kind of dismissive of. Mm-hmm. Obviously, neither of those acts are like pure country, but I think it kind of was a portal into what I think is, as far as genres go, like one of the genres where the lyrical side of craft and everything is really, over the years, I don't know about like how much it is like in a renaissance right now, but like in the 70s especially, just so many amazing songwriters like Townes Van Zandt and Steve Earle and Guy Clark, and then like going later into 80s and 90s like Lucinda Williams, and they were all definitely huge influences, more on like the lyrical side of things, and just how I learned to approach trying to get my own lived experiences onto the page, or just what challenging and like dark and kind of, yeah, I think especially Drive-By Truckers and Patterson Hood, they were a huge influence because I felt like he was so bold in the kinds of stories he would tell. Like he tells some very dark, kind of bleak tales, but he does it in a way that feels like he's really genuinely kind of sharing a part of himself. And that appealed to me a lot when I discovered their music for the first time.
You came up playing drums, you said. At what point did you start playing guitar, or is that part of like just learning the songwriting process? Because it's probably easier to write on a guitar than drums. I guess basically, when did you switch over to guitar, and you know, how serious did you take it? Yeah, like when you picked up the guitar, did you pick it up to learn it as an instrument and learn as much as you could about it, or was it more of a tool for songwriting?
I have to mention the folks who featured on our EP as well, because I didn't say that at the top. So Joran Brown is an amazing guitarist. He plays on Guardian Angel. Most people in Des Moines are familiar with him because he's just been, doing great work in a lot of different acts for a while now. So it was great to have him on that track. And then Dylan Lamb also does slide guitar, another great guitar player. We go way back. We were playing together in middle school, nice. And then my brother plays piano on a couple tracks as well, Conrad. So just wanted to make sure I throw their names out there. But back to your question. Yeah, I started playing guitar when I was like 12 or 13, took about a year of guitar lessons and was doing both guitar and drums at the same time. And I think it was kind of, my folks were kind of like, you should choose one of these things. And it kind of just naturally worked out that, my brother and I also were performing together from a pretty young age. And so he needed a drummer for his music. And I found myself, just loving drumming even more all the time. So I kind of went in that direction, but always had my guitar and would fiddle around with it, throughout high school, would still write songs here and there, but never really felt like I hit my stride or wasn't ever very happy with anything that I came up with. And during college is when I bought my first acoustic guitar and really started to return to making music that way. And so, yeah, I definitely have no ambitions of being a shredder. I know that's far off. I would need lots of work to make it there, but yeah, just try to push myself to learn, new skills on the guitar as much as possible, and also to just get better all the time so that I can remove obstacles as I'm writing music that might come up because of not being a Prince or a Stevie Ray Vaughan or
for sure.
Having a brother growing up, did you guys do a lot of jamming together, like coming up, learning music together, learning instruments together and whatnot?
We did, yes. And we both kind of learned about live performance and all of that together. We, started playing at the Vaudeville Muse. He's 3.5 years older than me. So I was the young kid who people were probably looking at like, is this some sort of like, are we going to get arrested for having this child our music venue, or
sure,
is this fine? But yeah, so we grew up, performing at the Vaudeville Muse in Des Moines a lot, the House of Bricks back when it still existed. And definitely, I think the like performance jitters and the anxiety around live performance that all of us who make music or do arts that are very public have to get through. We were able to like do together and survive those moments of just sheer dread of fucking up on stage or whatever. So there were a lot of milestone moments that we had as brothers. And also, you know, there's something pretty cool about making music with family members, because you do almost have like that sixth sense or something where you're able to tap into each other's ideas more quickly, which can kind of come with friends and other folks you've been playing with for a long time. But yeah, that was always something that I think we both appreciated. Was it didn't take much to kind of gel together on ideas. So we hadn't had a chance to really make music much together until we recorded Planet Alexander, and I just had been hearing some keys parts for some of those songs and wanted to get him involved, just because I'm always kind of jumping at a chance to make music with him. And so, yeah, it was cool to kind of remind myself of that deeper familial connection that we have when we're performing together.
Yeah. So you also said one of the members you've played with since middle school. Have you had a history playing with all the members of this band, or some of them new that you haven't played with? Or I guess what's the makeup in that sense?
Yeah, I've played with all of them. I guess so. Will, the drummer, I was not able to really play with him because we were on the same instrument, but he would sub in for me occasionally if I like couldn't make it to a show. Just, you know, the music world in Des Moines is a small one, and he played with Dan Hutchinson and continues to, of now Bellyard is their group, but Fetal Pig and Why Make Clocks and a lot of different groups. So Will's played in some of those groups over the years, and Dan was the stepdad of one of the members of my band, The Seed of Something, in high school. Cool. So Will would sub in for me occasionally, and got to know him a little bit. And then Chris played fiddle in my brother's act that he had going back in 2016. And that's when I met him, and just really was amazed by how he is able to use that instrument in a way that feels really, I don't know. Like, I think part of what you've touched on when you talked about not being able to like describe our sound, or like it maybe doesn't fit into a specific genre, is coming from Chris, and is owed to him, because he is using an instrument that has a pretty like recognizable way that it shows up in, especially like country music or you know, some like pop music, I guess. And I think he does some really creative things with the fiddle. So that, I was immediately, when I decided I wanted to put a band together, thought of bringing him into the mix.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you have a show coming up on the 17th. You said you're planning on recording a full length this year at some point. What other future plans, or like, where do you see this group going?
I mainly try to just enjoy every moment that I have making music with those folks, and you know, really am focused on continuing to write music and hopefully making songs that people want to hear. And you know, I don't have a huge long-term plan, I guess, for the group, outside of just wanting to share our stuff far and wide as much as we can, and continuing to perform in Des Moines and elsewhere. It'll kind of remain to be seen.
Cool. Well, you're off to a great start.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I know I've used the word refreshing a lot, and I don't mean that in like a sort of like general way. I mean it in like we listen to a lot of music, and I like most of it, if not all of it. I like it on some level, but it's very rare where like I'm actually taken aback by something. And your EP did that. I was just like, oh, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was just like, oh, here's someone just making some good fucking music. Like that. Mm-hmm. It didn't seem to have all the bullshit associated with it, and the image element, and this is who we are, and this is what we do, and this is what we're trying to accomplish, and we're trying to convince you of that. Like I didn't get any of that out of the music you make, and it was really cool. It felt like a really honest, just making music because you like doing it, and you know how to do it, and it's really good. And I don't know. I mean, not to just gush over it, but I really was taken aback by it. So mm-hmm. I loved it.
Well, I am terrible at receiving compliments, but I really appreciate it. That's very nice of you to say. And yeah, I really want to continue making stuff that intrigues me as a songwriter and that feels honest to experiences I'm having, and am excited to hear that maybe those things are coming across to y'all. Mm-hmm. And yeah, really, really pumped for just where we're going to go as a band nice. Here in the future.
Yeah, it's absolutely very amazing. Cool. And I'll be looking forward to the full length, for sure. Like that's, yeah. I'm excited to hear that. But mm-hmm. in the meantime, man, those 4 songs on that EP are just fantastic. Also, it's good to hear that you are getting a little exposure as well. I just heard Graveyard Shift on NPR the other day.
Oh, so, awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. Like when I heard that, I'm like, wait, I know this. Oh yeah, it's Luke Bascom.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome nice. Stuff, man.
Well, we won't take up your whole day or anything. Did you have anything else, Dan?
No, not really. I think we covered just about everything, and yeah, I'm sure we could probably talk with Luke for hours, but
yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that would end up into like what, a 9-part podcast or something like
that. Like more fitting of like some true crime shit. I don't know if people want to hear me exactly about my influences that long, but
right. Yeah, we could start getting into movies, and we mm-hmm. can go there. Food influences us.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, motivates us. In fact, like Pavlov's dog.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on, Luke. This was a fantastic conversation, and the whole story behind Planet Alexander is awesome. That you answered some questions that I had, and honestly just made me like respect it even more. Luke, do you have anything else? Where can people get a hold of you? Where can people listen to or purchase Planet Alexander if they want to? And anything else you'd like to promote?
Well, yeah, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram is where I'm usually posting the most. So that's at Luke Bascom Songs. And then to get Planet Alexander, you'll find it on Bandcamp. Just look up Luke Bascom in the End Times, and it's on there. You can purchase a digital version of it, or you can also buy a CD. And we have a few t-shirts left for sale if you want to check those out. So yeah, appreciate any and all support that comes in from this. And thanks again for having me on, Erik and Daniel.
Oh, yeah, it was
absolutely
great.
Thanks for
nice talking to you. Yeah,
awesome. Likewise.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Yep.
Thanks. You too. Week. See you later.
See you.
See you guys.
That was a good interview.
Yeah.
Luke Bascom.
Man, I'll tell you what, you guys really need to check out that Planet Alexander EP.
Yeah, I loved it. I'm not playing it up. And, I mean, I don't do that. You know, like if I like something, I'll tell you. If I really like something, I'll tell you. This one I really thought was cool. Yeah,
we're not playing.
I did have a couple things we needed to cover. So, without going into too much detail, both Dan and I are a little busier with things than we have been in the past, and so I think we're gonna need to slow down a little bit, and probably start coming out maybe closer to like once a month, maybe once every 3 weeks, somewhere in there. And that's just basically to do with time and other obligations and things like that. So we're not going anywhere, maybe just slowing down a little bit. But we would like your help with something. So we had an idea where, well, basically like finding music to review nonstop. It takes a lot of time, but also I think we could open ourselves up to a lot more things if we had a little more input. And so we were thinking, if you, the listener, could record a voice memo suggesting something that we should review. It could be local, it could be national, it could be you, it doesn't matter. Just record a voice memo, say your name, say the album we should listen to. And honestly, if you wanted to give a short review of your own, we would take that, mix it in with what we're doing on the podcast. You know, you'd get to hear yourself. We would get some suggestions, break out of our molds a little bit. That's not what I want to say. Break out of our cages, rusty cage. We're going to break out of our rusty cage and run. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think mold was an okay way to put it.
But yeah, I just think that'd be fun to hear from you guys. It'd be fun for other people to hear you. And I think that'd be awesome. So record a voice memo with your name, telling us what you want to hear, a short review if you want. You don't have to. And we'll put it on the episode and we'll review the record you suggested. I think that'd be pretty fun. Other than that, things are going to keep moving along the way they have been. And we're going to keep making the show just like it has been. And just maybe a little slower turnaround time. So, yeah.
I do want to also shout out everybody who has stuck with us through, you know, what is it? It's been like, 4 years now or something that you and I started doing this together, Erik. It doesn't seem like it, but yeah, about 4 years now. And I mean, I hear from people fairly periodically that they really like what we're doing. And so, thank you very much, listeners.
Yeah, thanks. This isn't a bragging thing, but we just hit 20,000 downloads, which I think was kind of a metric for us as far as, you know, feeling successful. And so I think that's part of the reason we felt comfortable kind of stepping back a little bit, because, you know, we've accomplished more than we expected. And that's because of you guys listening. So thanks so much. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
All right. So with that all being said, if you want to contact us for any reason, like Erik said, send a voicemail, or you can also just shoot us a message through Instagram, Facebook, or accelerativ.thrust@gmail.com.
Yeah, and there's no E at the end of Accelerativ.
No,
never has been. So if you're looking for us, it's Accelerativ without an E, Thrust.
Yep, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, send us those voice memos. I think it'd be really fun to hear you and to have everyone else hear you too. I think we can pull this thing together a little bit and show that it's kind of a tight-knit group of people who are making and listening to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And
nice.
All right. So thanks for listening, and bye.
Yeah, bye.